for your forgiveness. Please, I have made the worst mistake of my life.
21-year-old Otto Frederick Warmbier was born in Cincinnati, Ohio on December 12, 1994. In a white two-story home, Otto grew up the eldest child of a Republican family. At a top-ranked Ohio high school, he boasted the second-best grades, and he was also a math whiz, a gifted soccer player, and swimmer. He attended the University of Virginia with a scholarship and intended on becoming a banker. He joined a fraternity known for its kind of nerdy dudes, and one of his college friends said the academics and family always took precedence over everything else, from partying to tailgating at football games. When he won a finance internship the fall of his junior year, there was no disputing that he was a man fully in charge of his destiny. Knowing that he would soon be laboring over spreadsheets, he decided he wanted an adventure over his winter break. He had long been curious about other cultures and had previously visited Cuba. And since he would already be traveling to Hong Kong to study abroad, he decided he wanted to visit North Korea. Even though the state imprisons its citizens trying to flee it, they permit thousands of foreigners to visit every year on tightly controlled tours. If Otto had Googled Tour North Korea, the top link would have been for the company he chose, Young Pioneer Tours, an operator specializing in budget excursions to destinations your mother would rather you stay away from. The trips have a reputation of being like spring break in a geopolitical hotspot. After putting down a deposit for a 1,200 5-day, 4-night New Year's party tour, Otto learned from the confirmation email that his visa would be arranged by the company and presented to him when he met the tour group at the Beijing airport. The State Department had an advisory in place against traveling to North Korea, where he'd be beyond the American government's power to directly help him. Otto's parents weren't thrilled by the trip, but as his mother later explained, why would you say no to a kid like this? So shortly after Christmas 2015, Otto met the other young pioneers in China and boarded an old Soviet jet to Pyongyang. In North Korea's capital, border police confiscated cameras and flicked through each file on smartphones to make sure no outsider was smuggling in subversive materials. Then Otto stepped through passport control, and just like that, he was in. Early on in Pyongyang, Otto and other young pioneers were led aboard the USS Pueblo, an American Navy spy ship that had been seized by the North Koreans in 1968 and today serves as an odd tourist attraction. While they toured the ship, the young pioneers were regaled by a North Korean who told the foreign visitors about capturing the ship from the imperial enemy. The 82 American sailors captured on the Pueblo were beaten and starved for 11 months before finally being released. For Otto, the story made clear what he had perhaps overlooked before, that he was in enemy territory. Even though the Korean War had stalemated in 1953, the lack of a peace agreement meant that the North was technically still at war with the South and its ally, the U.S. Stepping from the boat, Otto was a little bit shocked, said Danny Grattan, the British salesman who was his roommate for the tour. On New Year's Eve, the young pioneers went drinking at a fancy bar, though according to his roommate Danny, no one got belligerently drunk, as some reports would later suggest. After the bar, Danny said they celebrated the final hours of New Year's Eve with thousands of North Koreans in Pyongyang's main square. The group then returned to their hotel, known as the Alcatraz of Fun because of its island location. To keep foreigners entertained, the 47-story tower is furnished with 5 restaurants, a bar, a sauna, a massage parlor, and its own bowling alley. Some young pioneers headed to the bar, and Danny went bowling, but he lost track of Otto. It was only later that he would wonder about the 2-hour window that none of us can account for. Whatever happened during those lost hours, when Danny would return to his and Otto's room around 4:30 a.m. on New Year's Day, Otto was already there snoozing. The following morning at the airport, the two tired friends were the last young pioneers to present their passports side by side at a single desk. After an uncomfortably long time, Danny noticed that the officers were intently scrutinizing the documents. Then two soldiers marched up and one tapped Otto on the shoulder. Danny thought the authorities just wanted to give the imperial enemy a hard time and joked, "Well, that's the last we'll ever see of you." Otto laughed and then let himself be led away from Danny through a wooden door beside the check-in area. North Korea accused him of stealing a propaganda poster from his hotel. They would later release grainy CCTV camera footage of an unidentifiable figure removing a framed propaganda poster from a wall in a restricted area of the hotel, claiming it was Otto. And just like that, the life he previously knew had just been wrenched from him. Three weeks later, North Korea announced that they were holding Otto for committing a hostile act against the state. But in late February, Otto appeared in a video released by North Korea's state news agency. In the video, he seemingly confessed to the crime and begged the country for forgiveness.
After I planned in detail to accomplish my plan, I arrived in Pyongyang on December 29th, 2015, through Beijing. On the early morning of January 1st, 2016, I committed my crime of taking out the important political slogan from the staff-only area of the Yangakdo International Hotel, aimed at harming the work ethic and the motivation of the Korean people. After committing my crime against the people and government of the DPR Korea, I was detained on January 2nd, 2016, at the Pyongyang International Airport. I have been very impressed by the Korean government's humanitarian treatment of severe criminals like myself, and of their very fair and square legal procedures in the DPR Korea. I understand the severity of my crime, and I have no idea what sort of penalty I may face. But I am begging to the Korean people and government for my forgiveness, and I am praying to the heavens so that I may be returned home to my family. My crime is very severe and pre-planned. I regret my actions more than anything. I apologize to both the Korean people and the government. I beg for forgiveness, and I beg for help in any way possible to save my life.
DPR Korea, for your forgiveness. Please, I have made the worst mistake of my life. I am the oldest son in my family. I have made the single worst decision of my life.
He said that he tried to steal the poster in exchange for a $10,000 used car, and the Z Society, which was a secret club at his university, promised him membership if he was successful at stealing the poster. But suspicions would soon arise. During the televised confession, Otto would read from a handwritten script that he had put on his quietest boots, the best for sneaking, and attempted the theft at the prompting of a local Methodist church, a university secret society, and the American administration to harm the work ethic and motivation of the Korean people and bring home a trophy. Many of the confession's details didn't square. For one, Otto was Jewish, not affiliated with the Methodist Church, making experts suspect the words weren't originally Otto's, and his statement was made under duress. Additionally, a member of the Z Society at UVA said they have never been in contact with Otto. Another theory includes North Korea arresting and keeping Otto as another political pawn to punish the U.S., as he was arrested during a tense and sensitive time between the nations. At the end of his trial, after his teary plea in hopes of a potential pardon, he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. Since his detention, American officials have repeatedly urged North Korean officials in public and private to release Otto Warmbier and 3 other citizens detained. In 2017, under the Trump administration, real pushes were made for Otto's return, and plenty of meetings with North Korean representatives took place where they discussed visiting the detainees and releases. However, things become bizarre. At some point soon after, North Korea urgently requested an in-person meeting in the U.S., and when U.S. Rep. Joseph Yoon met with them on June 6th, he learned about Otto's deteriorating medical condition. Prior to that meeting, they never disclosed his medical condition, but they announced he had fallen into a coma as a result of a sleeping pill and botulism, which is a rare but serious condition caused by a toxin that attacks the body's nerves. Yoon was then instructed to prepare to travel to North Korea to bring Otto back to the U.S., which required a medical team and an airplane. Sometime during that same week, Otto's family was notified of his newfound condition and his soon return. On June 13th, Otto was evacuated from North Korea while still in a comatose state and accompanied by a medical team, arrived in his home in Cincinnati, Ohio that same night, and was transferred to a nearby hospital. His parents described that he returned with a shaved head, feeding tube in his nose, blind, deaf, a large scar on his right foot possibly consistent with some kind of torture like electric shock, and it looked like someone had taken pliers and rearranged his bottom teeth. He was unable to speak, unable to see, and unable to react to verbal commands the night he returned, appearing very uncomfortable, almost anguished. Only 6 days later, Otto tragically passed away surrounded by his family. He was only 22. Whether North Korea decided to release him at this time so he did not pass in their care is one likely theory. His actual medical condition would shock his family. Medical records retrieved from North Korea showed that he had been in this state since April of 2016, which was 1 month after his conviction. During his release, North Korea provided a disc containing 2 brain scans dated April and July 2016, showing extensive damage to his brain. The scans also revealed he suffered extensive loss of brain tissue throughout his brain, consisted with interrupted blood flow and a lack of oxygen for a length of time. Specialists at the hospital reported that there was no evidence of botulism, but they also found no evidence of physical abuse or torture, as scans of his neck and head were normal outside of his brain injury. They added, "We didn't see any evidence of healing or healed fractures that would have been within that time frame," and also said, "We believe that for somebody who had been bedridden for more than a year, that his body was in excellent condition, that his skin was in excellent condition." When Otto finally opened his eyes again, he likely found himself at a guest house as he was an American national, which is where the State Department believed he was probably kept. The most used guest house is luxurious by local standards, where detainees can hear guards using its karaoke machine in the wee hours, but Otto would have likely found its 2-room suites roughly equivalent to those in a basic hotel. And no matter how nice his suite was, it was also a cell for he would have been allowed out only for an occasional escorted walk. For the next 2 months until his forced confession, Otto would probably have been relentlessly interrogated, as one American missionary, Kenneth Bay, said that he was questioned up to 15 hours a day. The goal was never to extract the truth, but to construct the fabrication that Otto read off handwritten notes at his news conference. They likely repeatedly scolded him for conspiring against the state. After he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, foreigners usually face moderate labor like being forced to plant soybeans or make bricks, and typically escape the brutality and torture that locals often have to endure in prison. However, Otto didn't even make it to labor camp. The staff at Friendship Hospital said they received Otto the morning after the trial, and that when he came in, he was unresponsive, said the doctor. They had to resuscitate him, then give him oxygen and put him on a ventilator or he would die. As Joseph Yoon, the negotiator who helped free Otto, said, the doctors were clear that he had been brought to the hospital within a day of his trial and that he had been in the same room until I saw him. What happened in that small window of time is still unknown. In July, the U.S. government announced that it would ban American tourists from visiting North Korea as of September 1, 2017, with Otto's detention listed as a reason. In November, the U.S. listed North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism. Many politicians were angered and disturbed at Otto's death and expressed strong reactions, including President Trump. Some criticized the Obama administration for its inaction with Otto's case, but his spokesmen have denied the claims. Some have also criticized the Young Pioneers program for recklessness with alcohol and understating the risks, which they have since announced that they are no longer accepting American citizens and updated its website to emphasize the risks. Some even voiced doubt on Otto's innocence and criticized his disregard for the U.S.'s travel advisory in his travel to North Korea in the first place. Otto's parents sued the North Korean government in the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C., accusing North Korea of torture and murder. Although private citizens are not usually able to sue foreign nations and their governments, damages may be paid to the victims of nations designated as state sponsors of terrorism, like North Korea, from a special fund established by the U.S. Congress. Using the physical and brain damages Otto endured, a D.C. judge ruled in December 2018 that North Korea was liable for $501 million in damages, adding that the award was appropriate to punish and deter North Korea for the torture, hostage-taking, and extrajudicial killing of Otto Warmbier. The order was sent to North Korea, but they returned it back and ignored it. One source explained that it is unlikely North Korea will pay the judgment since there is no mechanism to force it to do so, but that the Warmbier family may nonetheless be able to recoup damages through a Justice Department-administered fund for victims of state-sponsored acts of terrorism, and may look to seize other assets held by the country outside of North Korea. Earlier this year, the U.S. courts awarded the family $240,000 seized from a North Korean bank, and the family will likely continue receiving payments. Otto was described as a warm, engaging, and brilliant young man whose curiosity and enthusiasm for life knew no bounds. This year, his parents awarded a $15,000 academic scholarship in their son's name to a North Korean defector who dreams of freeing North Korean people and bringing a positive change to her homeland. The Warmbier family reported that they would consider providing additional scholarships to North Korean defectors in the future, stating that it turns a negative into a positive. The U.S. government has also extended the ban on American travelers to North Korea for the 6th consecutive year. Although it may never be known what exactly he endured in those 17 months of captivity, may Otto finally rest in paradise and his family receive all due justice and ease. And thank you all for watching.